With U.S. officials warning that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could come any day now, I want to bring in former ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. He served under President George W. Bush and again under President Trump, and he's now the vice president for Russia and Europe at the U.S. Institute for Peace. So, Ambassador Taylor, first off, thank you again for joining Top Story. President Biden has a call with Putin tomorrow morning. What do you think the purpose of that call is?
Tom, I think the purpose of that call is to tell him again, reinforce again, what a bad mistake it would be for President Putin to pull the trigger. The cost to President Putin of pulling that trigger would be dramatic and devastating, not just to him, but also to Russia. Richard has already indicated that this will be a bloody fight. It's not a fair fight, but it will be a very bloody fight on both sides. There will be many Russian families who will be burying soldiers and in Russian towns across the country. This will not be a popular fight. This will not be a popular decision to go into and invade Ukraine. Most Russians have a very positive attitude towards Ukraine. And indeed, President Putin has told them recently that we're all one nation, that the Ukrainians are our brothers. And for him now to invade them, for him now to crush them, and for him now to kill many Ukrainians, this will not go over well in Russia. The economic costs will be heavy. The sanctions on all Russians and on President Putin will be dramatic. He will feel it. His people around him will feel it. So President Biden tomorrow will emphasize that there is another way. There is another way. President Putin can sit down and talk about his concerns. We're ready to listen, and we're ready to negotiate.
Ambassador, you know, in these final weeks, there's been a lot of shuttle diplomacy by European leaders that have not involved the United States in person, at the table, right there, face to face. Do you think the Biden administration at some point sort of walked away from this problem, or do you think at some point they made the calculation that there's nothing left to do?
Neither, Tom, neither. They've not walked away, and there's plenty to do, and the amount of consultation, the amount of conversation, discussions among Americans and all the Europeans, every politician who has been to Moscow and who's been to Kyiv, and they're very careful to do both, has been in close conversation with President Biden, with Secretary Blinken, with Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. The level of coordination, cooperation, and solidarity, unity, is dramatic. And so when the chancellor goes or when the president of France goes, they are going with a consolidated message. By and large, they've got different stories, different little angles, because they come from different countries. But nonetheless, they are focused on the same thing, to tell Mr. Putin, do not invade. The cost will be very high, and there's another way to go.
I asked that because Moscow at some point pointed out this week that Macron was making deals that he could not do without the U.S. at the table. Now, whether that was their spin on things to their citizens, they were putting that message out there. I do want to ask you, though, since you know Ukraine so well, how long do you think Ukraine can last if Russia does invade?
Ukraine will prevail, Tom, in the end. Ukraine will last a very long time because, as Richard pointed out, even if the Russians invade in force, and go all the way to, big cities, the Ukrainian people will fight alongside of their army. And indeed, the Ukrainian people will take up arms, and every Russian patrol, every Russian soldier will have to look over his shoulder because there will be Ukrainians shooting at him. In every town, in every village, on every back road, the Russians will lose more and more. And in the end, the Ukrainians will drive out the Russians like the Afghans did. The Russians have a bad experience with invading.
Ambassador, briefly, because we don't have a whole lot of time, I do want to ask you, if an invasion happens, what type of humanitarian crisis do you envision? There are a dozen, if not half a dozen, countries that surround Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen?
Clearly, there will be a lot of Ukrainians who will go west. And they have allies to the West, and I am very sure that they will get a sympathetic, humanitarian, warm welcome as they do. Those are all NATO allies. Those are all allies who are supporting Ukraine, not with troops on the ground, but with all kinds of support, both political, military, financial. These are friendly nations to their west, and so they will welcome these refugees.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.